Thank you, Ali, for your wonderful How I Came to Practice talk. Really appreciate hearing about all of that. You've told stories like this before, but this version was the most complete I've ever heard. So, again, thank you. And I don't know where these door quotes came from. Um, the one poem in our tradition about a door that I really like is the poem on the precepts certificate. When you take precepts, you get a certificate. And there's a poem on that certificate, and it says, good and evil have no self-nature. Holy and unholy are empty names. In front of the door is the land of stillness and light. Spring comes, and the grass grows by itself. So maybe that is what it was like for you in Korea, in front of that door, symbolic door anyway that you passed through. You found the land of stillness and light. And now you're in Kansas. Only go straight. So thank you again. And, does anyone have a question?
I have a question, which we've talked about before, but the the idea of clearing your mind. You know, you have a clear mind, and you clear, you clear, you clear every minute you clear. But then wouldn't you also then clear the precepts?
Mm-hmm.
And
I would
so,
say if you keep clearing your mind, the precepts will become clear. So I don't think it sweeps the precepts away, clearing your mind. But you know, that's kind of an ambiguous word. Um, it's kind of a you know, computer word. You know, hit the clear button, boom, everything goes away, yeah, including the precepts. So that kind of clear, yeah, that's maybe not the best way, getting rid of everything. But so clear can mean to remove obstructions, a process that results in clarity, which of course is the same word as clear. So our minds are full of all sorts of garbage. You only have to sit for 2 minutes to realize that. And it can be really very dismaying. So we need a strong, specific practice when we sit, and really to stick to it. And you could repeat the phrase as we often do: clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. And then follow that with, don't know, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind. So clearing the mind doesn't result in eliminating the most important part of our practice, actually. The foundation of our practice is precepts. Sometimes it's said, there are three foundations to our practice, and they're Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. So Shila means precepts, morality, precepts. It's the Sanskrit word for precepts. And Samadhi here means meditation practice. And wisdom coming from, that practice. We call it prajna. I like prajna. It's a compound word. The J-N-A, jna, is the same root as K-N-O in our word, no. And the pra is kind of an intensive. So not just knowing, but really knowing. So we can call that wisdom. Or we can just keep the word prajna. sometimes it's really necessary to translate, the Korean or Sanskrit words um, that come up in our practice. Uh, but I think it's just as good and maybe even better to understand them on their own terms. Um, I don't think any of us, and I include myself, are going to become proficient in Korean or Sanskrit. Uh, consider myself to be a dabbler. But learning individual words is in the language which our teaching was originally delivered, I think is a worthwhile project, even if we can't come to a perfect understanding. Not going to be reading the sutras in Sanskrit, but some key words and where did these words come from? What do they mean? What did they mean to Buddha, when he used them? I think that's important. So anyway, thank you for your question. Keep a clear mind, okay? Good. Are there any other questions?
I have a question. Um, in Zen Master Song San's book, he mentioned this nine consciousness, the six original one, like the seeing, hearing, smelling, and then he mentioned those three other ones, the like, dislike, mind consciousness, the storehouse consciousness, and the Buddha consciousness. And there may be other words for these three consciousness. One thing that he said is when these consciousness are imbalanced, we create some kind of friction within ourselves. So trying to keep a balanced consciousness will help. So could you say something about this consciousness and the imbalance of this consciousness?
Yeah. Did you use the word friction in what you were just saying? When they're unbalanced, a certain friction results? Maybe I didn't hear.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think that's my own word I made up. But it's just something, when there's an imbalance, you cause this friction, either external friction with others or internal friction with yourself. That's my understanding of this imbalance. Or could you please say something about how to keep them balanced so we cause this minimum amount of internal friction within ourselves?
Yeah, I like this term friction. I've never heard it used in this context, but I think it's very expressive. Yeah, when things are out of whack, any kind of machine, and our minds are a kind of machine. Uh, Out of balance, the parts don't work, they're not gelling together well, then you get friction and then everything. Before long, the machine stops working. Yeah, so um, thank you for contributing that to my understanding. If I use that in the future, I'll try to acknowledge its origin from you. Yes, a Buddhist psychology is very complicated. I don't understand it. 9 layers of consciousness. Of course, the first of the 5 senses, so that's not too bad. And then different levels of mind. And sometimes it's said there's even a 10th consciousness that completely transcends all of these others. Um, but if you look at it as a mechanism, as I said, with different layers, different kinds of parts, a very, very high class machine. Everything has to really work together. So even an automobile, which compared to all of our consciousnesses working together, is a very simple machine. Something goes wrong, then the car doesn't run anymore. And so if something goes wrong, the way our consciousnesses are functioning, then suffering appears. So it's another way of looking at, considering the origin of suffering, that our minds are out of whack internally, and our minds are not in sync with the world as it is, with the people that we encounter in the world. Our minds, we say sometimes, aren't meeting. So a meeting can be like this mudra, expresses that, coming together, becoming one. So that's when things are functioning well. But not functioning well, then we get this, right? Both inside ourselves and in our relationships with other people. So how do we keep, everything in balance? So of course, our method is a regular and strong meditation practice. So it's pretty obvious that meditation is a function of the mind. Actually, it's mind and body, really becoming one. So our practice, we pay very careful attention to excuse me, our posture and our breathing. So I myself am very, very conscious when my posture is out of whack and my breathing is not regular in the way that I try to keep it when I'm meditating. And as soon as I bring the breath and the body back into alignment, everything is completely different. So it's this sort of thing that we're talking about with these 9 levels of consciousness and the different chakras. Chakra, a wheel, one here, one here, one here, one down there, and these wheels are all spinning together in a harmonious way. Whenever things are going well, whenever we're meditating well, but otherwise it's just a mess. So if you're attracted to psychological perspectives, then yeah, you can study this and I think get something from it. As I said myself, I never did quite get it. So I'm afraid I can't, give you like a systematic elucidation of all of these chakras and levels of consciousness. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing to come to that understanding. So you seem to be interested in it. So do you intend to pursue your studies in this way?
Yeah, I'm just preparing the Compass of Zen class for next week. So I was reading into the books. Maybe we won't have enough time to ask all the questions. So I thought maybe I'll take opportunity to ask a question ahead of time to gain some understanding. Thank you for telling me the posture is important in meditation, because for someone new in meditation, I only try to keep my mind clear. When it's uncomfortable, I have this pillow behind me and I just lean on it because I feel our body hurts. Let me, make body comfortable and then try to work on the mind. So it looks like these two has to be worked at the same time, right? So keeping a good posture is important for meditation, not only keeping the mind clear. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Really pay attention to your posture, and your breath is part of your posture. And whatever technique you're using, just keep it clear, clear, clear. Then everything becomes integrated. So integrated means it becomes one and it functions smoothly. So by all means, do study Buddhist psychology if you're attracted to it. And yeah, it's going to come up in the Compass of Zen class. So you'll understand it all completely in just a few days. No problem.
Yeah, I see. I see. One last question. So very, very basic question. If during medication our posture somehow hurts or uncomfortable, do we just ignore it and just do it? Or do we make some justification, not like adjustment to make it a little bit less
Yeah.
uncomfortable?
If your body is hurting and your posture is poor, stand up. That's one of our forms. We don't do that on Zoom, but you can, you know. But if we're meditating together and you really have to adjust your posture, you bow, stand up, and try to keep a good posture while you're standing up. Then when you feel, okay, the pain has gone away, then sit down and, readjust your posture, your legs, and so forth. But the standing up is important. Otherwise, you just start squirming. You know,
Ah,
so that doesn't do you or any of the people sitting with you any good at all. So
yes.
bow, stand, and then when you feel okay, I can do it now, then another little standing bow and sit down. And it may simply be a matter of putting the other leg on top or going from a cross-leg position to some kind of kneeling position, straddling the cushion. Um, so you have to, in general with posture, you have to experiment and see what really works for you. Some people very naturally, such as Zen Master Hae, sits in full lotus, no problem. And that's due to her being in a caste for a couple of years when she was a baby. And so, she was given a Buddhist posture shortly after birth. Others can never sit in full lotus. I can manage it, but it's very uncomfortable, and I just sit in some kind of half lotus position. Any kind of seated position, and sit in a chair if you have to. That's no problem. Just keep your back straight. So
Could
thank you.
you say could you say a little more about posture and in particular really technical things like tucking the chin in,
Oh, yeah,
the curve of the spine where the knees should be, things like that?
you already said it, so that's good.
No, you say it.
Okay, we only have 2 minutes left, so let's just make it a checklist, of good posture. Uh, I recommend taking the back of your hand and putting it in the small of your back to establish the spinal curve. That really should be there whenever you're sitting. You can really feel that. Then, as Judy was saying, tuck in the chin. So we don't sit like that, right? Ugh. It's like this. And you do have to, consciously bring the chin in, and that will give you a straight neck. So now you have the curve in the small of your back, and your neck, the back of your neck is aligned, with the top of your back. Like that. So you can just feel that. When you go like that, everything feels completely different. It's just, then keep your energy low, in the hara. Our mudra, and of course, you all know the mudra. It's important to keep this mudra, very strongly, and center it on your belly button, which will usually be the case if your wrists are resting on the very top of your thighs. You may have to hold it a little higher. Either way is okay. I certainly rest my wrists on the top of my thighs, and that gives you another kind of stability. So all of these little checkpoints when you begin to sit, and then you can tell when you're getting out of whack during the course of a sitting, and just very gently, correct the posture, and keep using your breath in whatever method you want, but breath and posture really go together, and breath can correct or maintain good posture. So those are my thoughts. Did I leave anything out? I got the thumbs up from a Zen master. Okay, we're going to leave it right there, folks. Thank you very much.